This is Sportish.
Do it better.
This is Sportish. This is Sportish. This is Sportish. This is Sportish.
This is Sportish. I'm back, baby, after a 1-week absence. We roll again with the dynamic duo. I'm Geoff Brault. He's Dr. Keith Strudler, Director of the School of Communication and Media at Montclair State University. There shall be no Wally Pipp situation here. Illustrious Sportish guest of the year, Jay Friedman, back to the bench like a running shoe store that couldn't get off the ground. And it had a rapid closure as we return to the Keith and Jeff show here at Sportish. Keith, I'm sure you are quite glad to have me back, as glad to have me back as I am to be back.
Well, let's be clear. I mean, I don't want to oversell Jay's performance, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. And I will tell you, the Hebrew Hammer, as he likes to call himself, brought a lot of energy to the program. What he did not bring was a working microphone cable. So for those of you that missed every fifth word, trust me, it was just as good as what you did here. Look, of course, I'm happy to have you back. For how long? I don't know. What you've lost, and this is what I tell my kids. This is what I tell my kids when they break curfew. I don't know if I can trust you anymore. That's the challenge.
Frankly, that's how I like it, because you were getting a little too comfortable, and now we need you to remember where your bread is buttered after you had to slog through 48 minutes with Jay Friedman. Now you get back to the sort of witty repartee and, of course, professionalism that only I can bring to the table, as evidenced by the fact that I still have not cared to get my lighting right. Now, that just means that instead of watching us on For the Fans or FTF Next or YouTube, you should just listen to us as a podcast. It's how this show was conceived. And truthfully, it's like listening to Led Zeppelin in its original vinyl. It's a better experience.
Do not disparage the numbers. Do not. If you're going to listen to it, you also have to watch it. The good news is Jay Friedman's cave, where he broadcasts from, it looks like it. I mean, it looks like an airplane at 3 a.m. when they've dimmed the cabin lights for sleeping. So he looks like the one guy holding his book, trying to read it at 4 a.m. Like, that's his lighting is bad.
That is, by the way, one of the worst people alive. Like, there's a couple common courtesy things that need to happen on airplanes. And one of them is, after a certain point, and I feel safe saying midnight, 1 a.m. is that point, turn the overhead light off. Take some context clues from the people around you. If everyone else has their light off, so should you. Almost always in life, if you're the only one doing something, you're probably inconveniencing other people.
Well,
so take a quick look around.
Yeah, tell that to people in Jonestown.
I don't understand your reference.
That was the cult, right? That was the cult thing where, never mind.
You should have went with Waco. Waco would have been an easier choice for that. And it's one of the worst cities in America. Apologies to Waco, but you know it's true. You live there.
So yes. By the way, how are you on the windows?
My windows?
No, the windows on an airplane. Like, what's your responsibility? What's your responsibility as the person who's sitting by the window?
So I'm actually okay with however you'd like to operate the windows. I do believe that it should be a default windows closed situation. And this is, again, only early morning or late night in what would be a sleeping time. If it's, the middle of the day, 1 o'clock or whatever, sure, put your window open if you want to look at some clouds.
If it's flooding light? What if it's flooding light in?
Again, take a look around and gather some context clues from those people around you. Are they trying to eat? No. Are they inconvenienced by you? Then maybe consider adjusting your behavior to the betterment of society.
I think that's how chaos. You got to have policy and procedure. By the way, not that anyone cares about this. What is your thought about takeout? So we did some takeout sandwiches today, right? We did some. We brought, I got the family Jersey Mike's, popular around here.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
You like Jersey Mike's? Are you comfortable with it?
Of sub chains, they're one of my favorites.
Yeah, I'd say that. A little. Sometimes I think a little pricey, but you get what you pay for, right? And
Agreed.
so Jersey Mike's.
That, by the way, was that the nicest we've ever been to a chain restaurant? Like, do you know how like endorsers of products say, I wouldn't endorse just anything. Like, I would only endorse a product I actually use. Is Jersey Mike's our chain restaurant that we both endorse?
Jersey Mike's is the one. Jersey Mike's is the one because we made it through 30 seconds without being like, look, it's great if you have a dog and you can't, and Petco's not open. Like, normally that's where this goes. And then normally we also make fun of the clientele. Like, we actually take it a step further and we make fun of everyone who walks into the establishment. So yes, basically by saying, oh, it's the best of garbage, that's the highest. Like, well, I'll tell you what, it won't kill you like Subway.
Another thing Jay Friedman didn't bring to the program, sponsorship money. Viewership. What's the point of having a special guest host or adding a new character if they're not going to elevate the base?
What sponsors have you brought to the program? Just I'm aware.
We're working on Jersey Mike's. I don't know if you heard.
So Andra called in the order, used the app, right? Which is great because you avoid that awkward thing that we've talked about, which is the tip situation. Mm-hmm. That's not part of their vernacular. And I go there and I pick up the sandwiches, and apparently my wife had also ordered 2 small bags of chips.
Okay.
And I wanted to be like, well, why would you order chips, like small bags of chips from a takeout place? Because that's one of the items on the menu that's so easily replaceable at a much lower cost with, kind of a volume product. I mean, any drugstore, supermarket, the bags of chips were like $1.50 or $1.30, whatever it was each. That seems like an unnecessary move we made. Same thing with drinks. Like, why would you buy a drink from a takeout establishment that way when you're just going to bring it home? So what are your thoughts on getting chips with your order that you're going to eat at home? 2 follow-up questions. Did you have chips at home? What do I look like? A stock boy? Well, maybe she ordered the chips out of convenience because she knew that there weren't any chips in the cabinet at home, and nothing pairs better. I'll tell you what we did have. We did have some corn nuts. It's not, no. First of all, why? Second of all, no, that's not the same. So if you didn't have chips at home, I have no problem ordering chips. By the way, what do you mean why? Corn nuts Stop. in the no. Stop. Corn nuts. You're embarrassing yourself. Corn nuts are in a top 5. They're in a top 5. And by the way, I see where this is headed, and we are about to get into our ranking top 10 real world characters. It's like there's a funnel that's leading us there, and we have to avoid the gravity of this situation because we're going to go down a rabbit hole that we will not be able to get out of. Instead of preparing for a sports show, Keith and I did argue over which seasons of the real world were the best, and we do not agree at all. Keith just said the first 3 were the best because he's one of those people who thinks that the oldest is obviously the best. And then I gave the right answer, which was, of course, that the best 3 seasons of the real world are San Francisco, Seattle, and Miami. Now, you can make a great case to put Hawaii in there. I got Hawaii as a strong 4, but I'd be okay if you slid that into the top 3. By the way, whenever you say you don't have time for something, your knowledge of pop culture seems to indicate otherwise. You have watched every episode of every season of The Real World, correct? I don't, not all the newer ones. No, but I was probably good up to like season 20, 21, somewhere in there. Can we answer the question though? Do you feel like, leave the corn nuts aside, because if you don't like corn, I'll give you 2 food groups that distinguish the wheat from the chaff, right? Okay. It's your corn nut and your junior mints. Those are 2 both ridiculous statements. Junior mints are akin to, and this is very seasonal, junior mints are akin to candy corn in that no one wants them and they shouldn't exist. Corn nuts, my problem with corn nuts, and it's more so a problem in the situation of you thinking that would be a natural accoutrement or accompaniment to a Jersey Mike's sub, because it isn't. A corn nut is not a side dish. It's maybe you can get away with snacking on them out of the tin. You're sitting on the couch, you're watching football, and you got nothing better to do, so you can have some corn nuts. So what is it? If it's not a side, how is that not a chip replacement?
It's not a chip replacement. It's akin to a peanut. And this is the problem with corn nut. It doesn't know what it wants to be. If you have both names in the title right, if you have two snacks, you have no snacks. If the corn nut was elite corn, it would just be called popcorn. If it was elite nuts, it would be called peanuts. And so they could not decide what they wanted to be. So they did a terrible version of both.
Is there a food group that's harder on your teeth than a corn nut? The one that you kind of dread more eating, where you're like, look, I want these, but it might hurt. Like it's up there.
I actually have a real answer to this question.
I was going to say taffy. Taffy is number 2.
Oh, so taffy skews differently than what I was thinking of. The most painful food to eat, possibly in the world, is Captain Crunch cereal. When you finish a bowl of Captain Crunch, the top of your mouth looks like a bombed out minefield. I mean, Captain Crunch will rip a layer of skin. If you're looking to peel some dead skin off the top of your mouth, grab a bowl of Captain Crunch.
Is it it's like a pumice rock? Is that what, could I use it?
It's even shaped like a mini pumice rock. And now I think Captain Crunch is delicious. General Mills, if you're listening, sponsorships are available. I think it's delicious, but it is a cereal where you have to accept a certain amount of pain to enjoy.
Now the milk doesn't take the edge off that?
A little bit, yeah. But not as much. I mean, it's like having a
Captain
razor
Crunch,
in your mouth.
I don't know that I've ever eaten Captain Crunch. Does that have marshmallows in it?
It can. Those are crunch berries.
So I don't eat marshmallows.
I actually don't care for marshmallows either.
Well, I don't eat on principle. I don't eat on principle.
What principle is that?
They're made with gelatin, and gelatin is an animal byproduct. And I'm not a murderer.
Gelatin is an animal byproduct?
Yes. You didn't know this?
No. Like, what is Jello? What animal is making Jello?
It's like a hoof, like a cow hoof. Sometimes they use fish bones. It's like a cow hoof. It's a chemical derivative of hooves.
This has blown my mind. That seems so you're telling me that the delicious bowl of cherry Jello that I might enjoy later, and I won't because I haven't had Jello in 23 years, but theoretically speaking, the Jello that I could have later, the wiggly, gelatinous, like cold Swedish fish that I could be shoveling into my mouth and never stops wiggling, is cow hooves.
Yes, the gelatin is a derivative from cow hooves. That's why they have vegan marshmallows. That's why they have kosher marshmallows. Yep, absolutely. The kosher marshmallows often use fish bone, a derivative of fish bone. Doesn't make it any more appealing now, does it? But that's the truth.
This is the most important work that we've ever done on this program.
Yeah.
Now, to back up that information, how do I feel about chips as a side in a takeout order? If you don't have chips at home, fine. Caveat. If you do have chips at home, but oftentimes when you go to these sub places, if you add chips and a drink, you get a certain meal deal.
We didn't even go full Monty. We just went chips. And by the way, I understand your point here, but are you so lazy you can't just run into the Walgreens on the way there and just pick up a? Well,
yes, you pay for the convenience. At this point, you pay for the convenience.
It's a small bag. You're going to want more chips after it's done. The only reason I would sanction that behavior is if you cannot stop eating. If you're one of those people that once you open a family-sized bag of Doritos, it's literally like you literally have to call the doctor before you open the bag to be like, look, I'm going to be coming in at about 3 a.m. needing an angioplasty.
Here's where your stance falls apart. The only way that you're not, just the only way that you're not going to become a hypocrite is if you always buy the largest available quantity of everything. Is that what you do?
Well, it's not actually far from it. It's not far from it.
Because unless you're the kind of person, because why would you buy a can of Coke if you could buy a 20-ounce bottle? And why would you buy a 20-ounce bottle?
Because you're stopping yourself. Because you are stopping yourself. You're stopping yourself. You are.
But that's not the point. You want to buy a larger bag of chips because of the cost. Because you said it's more economical to get a big bag of chips.
Of course. I got 2 kids. I'll give them part. So that's we all get. Now, look, I'll tell you what. If you buy anything less than a 24 pack of toilet paper, you're a chump. Like there's no reason.
What in the world do vegan marshmallows do to the back end of a body if you're buying a 24 rack of toilet paper?
But it's always cheaper to buy in volume.
Correct. Yes, but now you have now you're the crazy person that now you're on coupon wars where you've got a storage shed in the back full of toiletries.
No, but no, anyone who's like, I don't have room for this. I will find room for a 24 pack of toilet paper in your house. I will. You invite me over. I will find it. There is no reason, zero reason. You come home with a 6-pack, that reeks of desperation. Like, I just need something right now. You are thinking about, that is someone who is completely in the moment. Anyone who buys a small pack of toilet paper, they are completely in the moment. This is like someone that goes out and buys a single pack of, let's say, of birth protection, of condoms. You know, they are in a linear.
Wait, I'm sorry. This question has to be asked. And I think we're all surprised that we got to Sportish episode 70, whatever, before this question got asked. Keith Strudler, how much are you pooping? Because I think it's an uncomfortable amount.
No, it's a completely normal amount. And obviously, if I wanted to, I have workplace environments that also. I'm just saying, you should buy it at volume. No one's like, this is not one of those items to be like, well, I need some toilet paper, but I probably won't need it after November. Like, no. There's no world in which you're not going to need more.
But again,
the technology doesn't change. It doesn't change.
Here's why your stance is ridiculous. If you're buying a 24-pack of toilet paper, why aren't you buying a 36-pack of toilet paper? Why aren't you buying an entire pallet of toilet paper? Why aren't you buying then 2 pallets of toilet paper?
Bring it
With
on.
this logic, you should never not be buying a larger quantity of toilet paper. There's no end. There's no end. You basically said that unless I have the entire world supply of toilet paper, that I have done something ridiculous. That's what you're saying.
But the logic is not wrong there. The logic is not wrong. So I think what you have to do is think about how much are you investing in the toilet paper and how much might you make on income? Like how much, I think there's a point at which
you have to find the point of diminishing returns is what you're telling me. There has to be a point where suddenly you have too much toilet paper and like the paper may actually disintegrate before you get to it.
No, I'm saying like if I spent $100,000 on toilet paper, that money could make more money. I could put that into an interest-bearing account. So I'm saying there's an amount at which this is more disposable cash. I'll be using it before it starts to accumulate. Like I can't put it in a short-term CD. So I mean, this is probably something we could figure out. I would bet for a family of 4, the right amount of toilet paper to buy at any one particular moment is probably, given a volume discount, it's probably about 1,000 rolls.
Oh, I can't believe.
But again, we're going to run into the donut problem, which is they don't know how to price it after a point, right? You don't have a price. I mean, you're in the wholesale business and I don't need that aggravation. And so, instead I literally do have guys dropping off, like making rules about like, we won't take this past the edge of your driveway and then you have to cart it in. I mean, that's the problem with all this stuff. And then what if I'm at the point where I'm now paying additional amount for bathroom delivery?
This is logic I don't understand. And speaking of things I don't understand, do you know what an NFT is?
Nifty.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a digital card of sorts.
Correct. So that's how far, as I understand it as well. A lot of athletes are now investing in these. Steph Curry invested in a company called Bored Ape recently, and now NFTs or Nifties, if you'd like. He's selling these like digital art pieces of Bored Apes, graphic art things for hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is just a money laundering scheme, right?
Well, I mean, well, how stupid would you feel if you bought one and then you accidentally deleted it?
And look, there's a lot of people out there, and I guarantee some of them overlap in the audience of people that watch this show that like to think that anyone who doesn't understand these things or thinks that their value is something less than real and tangible is some sort of Luddite. And that's fine, but it's also at equal measure ridiculous, right? Yeah. Like this is a ridiculous thing.
The only thing I don't like about junior mints is that when you eat them and then you drink it, it makes your soda taste bad. So because it has the mint, and mint distorts the flavor of like a sweet soda or something like that.
Yeah, that's an easily solvable problem. Eat a better candy.
So as far as this is no different than the other thing we don't understand, which is cryptocurrency. We don't know.
They're almost exactly the same. As far as I understand, an NFT basically is cryptocurrency. It's all just a blockchain transaction.
Sure. And at that point, I'd rather at least have my cryptocurrency be like a cool like image of Steph Curry dunking over someone. Like, as long as I'm going to have cryptocurrency, it might as well have a picture on it. It is so weird. It does feel really like gambling. It feels like at some point someone's going to wake up and be like, why the hell do I want this? And the whole thing, like, there's no gold standard behind this. Like, what's holding this up?
So that, and I believe China just announced that they've banned all cryptocurrency, which is wild. Which also sort of in a way tells you that maybe cryptocurrency is actually something to be taken seriously. However,
but if they're banning it, here's going to be our.
Well, they might be banning it to protect their, the currency that's already in play.
Maybe we should buy. Can we buy Chinese currency? That seems like a good.
We might have to at this point.
We should do a financial tip of the week.
Do they do sponsorships? We would be the worst CNBC show. The worst. I don't get how any of this works. But at least look, I understand as a society, you can assign value to anything, and value is just basically sort of what someone else agrees that something is worth. But at least if you buy a thing, right, like a baseball card or whatever, theoretically, I'm in possession of that product and I can put it in a safe or a safety deposit box or whatever, and it can't be taken away from me. It does seem like with crypto and NFTs, and this is, again, probably my ignorance, but it seems like that could go away somehow. It just doesn't, like, its intangibility scares the heck out of me. And it's probably my ignorance, but it's just weird.
It is weird. But, this is like talking to someone who's like, I really like having the CD because I can hold it, right? And the music, everything is all ones and zeros at some point anyway. And so
a slight difference though between a 99-cent MP3 and a 4 point whatever $1 million transaction that people are buying these NFTs for. That's what seems odd. Like it just seems like such a skewed...
Have you ever wired money before?
So I don't think so. Not like a Western Union or anything. Another potential sponsor.
No.
We welcome you in. We welcome you in, Western Union. As far as I know, it is the easiest and best way to wire money.
I'm not sure that's true.
Well, now they're not going to sponsor the show. This is why we don't have any ad breaks.
I think it's more likely if you're like a little down on your luck, to be quite honest. I think it's like, I don't think Jeff Bezos is like, I'm going to buy another chain of grocery stores. I'll get them their money via Western. I want you, Albertsons, to go over to the Western Union and tell them your name is Fred. You'll be getting some money. So I don't think that's necessarily, no, they're not going to sponsor us now. But when you wire money, like when you buy something really expensive, like say a house, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
All right. And there's all this money, or there's this money when there's this point when you're basically in the room with all the agents and all this kind of it's very tense, right? It's very tense because everything's about to happen, right? Everything's about to happen, right? It feels like a nuclear treaty is about to happen, right? And you're waiting there and you realize like, oh my God, I'm either buying or selling something. There's a lot of remorse in the whole problem. It's like the night after your wedding, right? And so you're going through all this, and
we're just gonna gloss over that joke. That might have been the best joke that you've ever had on this show, and you just steamrolled right over it.
You killed it. You needed to let it go.
No, I needed to let the people know that they just witnessed a moment of greatness.
So there's this point where you have to give the other person or receive from the other person a lot of money. Now, when you're giving it, it's really scary. You're like, I'm giving you a lot of money because it's a big down payment. You know me, I like to live large. This basement thing, it ain't free.
Yeah, we talked about the amount of toilet paper you buy at a clip.
You can't have a house this big and not arm it. So it's this is the Death Star. It needs to be fully operational. And so when that money leaves your account, it's left your account. And then there's someone, basically the other person is sitting. It's not automatic though. It's not like like an email. So there's this period where that money is literally gone. It's not in your account anymore. It's not in their account anymore. And it is in the ether. That is the same thing you are experiencing right now. This moment, this point at which you realize everything is digital, like your currency is it's all basically digital anyway. Because if I went to the bank and I'm like, I'd like to have all my money in ones, they'd be like, we don't have that, right? Especially a guy like me, maybe you.
So I understand that. I do. But I could get the ones. Like they could get them for me. It's not like they don't exist in the real world. I can never get my.
You can print a copy of it.
NFT.
You can print it.
So can anybody. So can anybody with a printer and a screenshot. The difference is, of course, you can't sell it. I understand those things aren't the same.
But I've never
the amount of money that's being invested in these. It's odd. It's quite
does seem
odd.
odd.
It doesn't seem to make sense. Why is someone putting $4 million into one of these things as opposed to, I don't know, let's say real estate? We know they're not making any more land. I feel like that's a decent investment.
The one thing I'll say is, when it comes to, like, I've never understood why a particular trading card, what's the one that goes for gazillions, the
Wagner T206,
right? I've never understood why any card of any level just shoots up, and they explained it's very rare, et cetera, et cetera. But still, in the end of the day, it is just simply a piece of paper, which, by the way, I know you're like, but that's something. You know what can happen to pieces of paper? They can get torn or stolen or fall into a dish of water or get wrapped up in the toilet paper. Next thing you know.
And do you know why all those things can happen to them? Because they exist.
But I'm saying all of these things can happen in the real world. Like, I mean, how nervous are you if you own one of these very expensive cards? How nervous are you about that piece of property? You can't enjoy it. You can't enjoy it.
No. I mean, it has to be in a safety deposit box somewhere, and it's just there. Like, you can go look at it whenever you want.
And by the way,
it's not something that you're going to just keep on your counter.
And have you seen Ocean's 11 or 12? They can break in and get it. They can break in and get it. Right?
You want to know what makes me nervous about breaking in and getting it when it comes to NFTs and other non-tangible assets? They can break in and get those too, and you don't need to be a wiry gymnast to sneak around the lasers. You just got to be a guy who knows his way around a keyboard.
Well, I think it's a little more complicated than that.
No, I really think it's that simple. I think it's a couple keystrokes and you're there.
It's like War Games. What's this? Matthew Broderick's best movie of all time, as we've discussed earlier in the show.
That is ludicrous. First of all, we have not discussed that before.
We have discussed.
That is a silly statement that you think War Games is better than Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
No, we've literally had this.
Things that have ever
we've had this conversation on the air. We've had it on the air.
You know this is being recorded, right? You think that War Games is better than Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
Yeah, I don't even think it's close.
That's.
I think Ferris Bueller is overrated. I said it.
That's ridiculous.
I said it.
Both of those things might be true. Ferris Bueller might be overrated, and it's still way better than War Games.
I think Biloxi Blues is better than Ferris
Bueller. That's ridiculous. No one's even heard of Biloxi Blues. That is at this point, you're just saying things to say them. Like, you just wanted to make sounds with your mouth there.
You don't think that was a movie made off of, I believe, a Neil Simon play? You're unfamiliar. You're unfamiliar with it. So that is a better film.
Stop.
So as far as I look, so if you want my final take on Nifties, I wouldn't buy one. Although you know what I would do? I would buy a really cheap one just to have one.
Okay. So like a guy who buys like a pack of baseball cards like at the drugstore checkout, even though there's a million of them. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Is there a motorcycle in your apartment?
Quick Sturgis rally happening outside. Yeah, I was wondering if that got picked up. Again, I live in a chic urban core. Sometimes it's hard to find time to talk to Keith Strudler in suburbia, surrounded by his temple of toilet paper. Now, if you want to talk about upside to having an uncomfortable quantity of toilet paper, you could build a fort out of it.
Oh, absolutely. Toilet paper is one of the most versatile products probably ever made.
I feel like your kids are at prime fort building age. Are they fort builders?
No, they're much older. They're,
are they? I don't know.
Sloan's 14. You're not building forts at 14.
Why the heck not? That's when you can finally start doing some real engineering.
You're not building a fort. You build forts when you're like 7. You really don't know. You don't know children at all.
Not at all.
You literally, like, you would show up to someone's house who has kids, who has like a 12-year-old, and you'd be like, "Oh, I brought you this teddy bear." Like, you don't know.
Not even the slightest. You know what really gets me is like,
or you'd be like a 4-year-old. You'd be like, "I got you a power drill." I heard kids like this.
I have no concept of what age you are and what grade. So if someone's like, my kid's going into 5th grade, I'm like, oh, what is she, 7? Like, I have no idea what, like, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't get within 5 years of what kid is in
that
what
must
grade.
Be awful when they meet someone. They're like, oh, she's 9. You'd be like, kindergarten?
Yeah. It's sort of like that. It is. The other thing I can't do is keep track of the age of my friends' kids.
No, but that's not your problem, to be quite honest. It's not your job. But I will say, I bet you really don't come in. You don't come in until about 16. You don't come in until you see them as prospective recruits for college athletics. I bet that's when you.
That is pretty much right. Until you have like until you're referred to by your graduation year, like, oh, this is my son, Tim. He's a 24. Like, now I'm interested in you.
Are we done with the Nifties? I'm done with Nifties.
Okay.
You looking at? Are you going to roll a wheel?
Well, so it's more so than usual. And I think it's because we're excited to see each other again. It's like when you return home from vacation and your dog starts like jumping all over you. We spent a lot of time off the rails. And so I'm trying to figure out what topics that we thought we might want to discuss that we could still fit in, because there honestly isn't a whole lot of show left, at least not as much as we would need to discuss all these things. Sure. The number one thing that I wanted to discuss, because we did start this show at the height of the pandemic when everyone was in lockdown and no sports were happening. And we thought, hey, we'll chronicle the return of sports throughout this crazy COVID season. And what has happened instead is we just use it as a forum to discuss what is the proper quantity of toilet paper to have in your house at any time. But, because that is sort of the heart and soul of Sportish, and Jay Freeman would never understand that because he wasn't there at the beginning. He wasn't there in the trenches.
Jay Freeman is a trained medical doctor. Who's more... A trained, by the way, he got the Pfizer shot. I bet you he's on his booster already. I bet you he's already on a booster.
Well, he would know as a doctor that he doesn't need a booster, according to the FDA. He doesn't need it. He's fine. He's got the gold standard. He has the shot that he needs to have. He's fine now. He's got the antibodies, and he's going to be good. He's going to be good because we need a backup host for Sportish in case anything was to happen to me or you. Perhaps you have some sort of toilet paper incident and you slip on one roll and you have so many that it just sort of cascades down on you, slides you right out into the pool, and then you're just trapped under toilet paper. It could happen.
That is a great, what is it? What do you write after obituary? That's a great obituary when you're killed under a metric ton of ultra soft.
He died doing what he loved.
At that point, you got to hope you get to high. Like, I don't, then we do need to move on to this next topic. I don't understand anyone who buys really cheap toilet paper. Your life is
with that.
Too short.
I agree with that.
Too short.
Get the quilted. Oh yeah, 100%.
Whatever, and find what you like. I mean, you don't take it from us. We all have our personal choices. Find what works for you and just literally ride that.
Yeah.
So,
athletes now are in danger of missing significant chunks of playing time because of their refusal to take one of the vaccines. Yeah. This is, there's a lot of folks out in the world that do not want to get the vaccine. Okay, I'd prefer you did. You do you. At this point, I'd rather argue about toilet paper. But athletes are willing to put millions of dollars aside on this odd principled stand not to take the vaccine. Do you think that we will see highly paid athletes skipping games because they are that steadfast in their belief that they don't want the shot?
Yeah, I think we will. I don't think it'll be many. I think we will. I think obviously anyone who's close to Brooklyn is getting very nervous all of a sudden because Kyrie Irving, like, this is not out of character for him. I think there's a kind of an assumption that maybe other athletes will eventually come around. Kyrie Irving, once you've gone down the flat earth kind of juxtaposition, everything's on the table. One of the more interesting ones, which I believe I sent over you, was Jonathan Isaac from the Magic, whose argument was, hey, just remember these vaccines, they're made by people, right? And so and you can't always trust people. Now, by that theory, you cannot do anything because
Correct.
the bus, the house you're in, the shoe, like they're literally like there's something else. You basically have to become a naturalist and be like, I'm only trusting what you're just going to have to go live in the forest because once you've used that as your logic, you pretty much rolled yourself into a corner. So do I think that there'll be athletes? Look, this is going to be more pronounced for some athletes than others, because if you happen to play for a New York metropolitan team or say a Los Angeles team, you're going to miss half of your season right off the front end because you cannot play. Like you can't play in those arenas. So I think you might have one or two that will. What I think a lot of people are surprised at in some regards is that the NBA has not tried to go full policy and say you have to, and they've been reticent to do that, even though we've seen the referees union go that route. So there are other organizations that have used that mandate. Now, the other thing I think, to be fair, is look, we're gonna harp on the athletes, high profile athletes who have not, because it's such a strange story. We should recognize that compared to the general population, the NBA has done a remarkable job, right?
True.
I mean, they're in the 90 something percentile, right? Great.
Yes.
Not the WNBA, but still quite good. Right?
Yes.
So, and there have been several high profile athletes who have gone public and are saying, look, you got to do this, are going into various communities, and I think very effectively. There was actually, I believe it was in Slate that came out today. An author wrote an opinion piece saying, LeBron James, it's time for you to start advocating for the vaccine, nationally, which I thought was an interesting take, just saying, hey, you've got all this, you have all this power and this authority. Sure. You should use it. You should use it.
That to me, I'm not a huge fan of, because everybody does that with LeBron on every single issue. And they're like, you can be the one who changes everyone's mind. And as long as he changes their mind in the direction that the article, that the author would like people's minds to be changed, everything is fine.
Yeah, but this is a little different. I mean, this is a public health crisis.
Look,
I'm not saying you have to. I just think I agree with the premise.
But you'll always agree as long as you agree with the premise. As soon as they come out and say, LeBron, if you came out in favor of, and it's something you don't agree with, now all of a sudden you're the worst person in the world.
What would be the thing if he's like, look, I think LeBron James should be the person that'd be like, no toilet paper, bidets for everyone. Would that move the needle on bidets in America?
It might. I think there would definitely I think a lot more people would become bidet curious. They would do a little research. And here's what I've always been curious about bidets. I actually rented an Airbnb over the summer.
Is there, by the way,
bidet?
Is there a phrase like for people who use both toilet paper and bidet, like buy bidet? Like,
well, so this is my question. If you use a bidet, and I could not bring myself to do it while I was renting this Airbnb, mostly because I didn't have the framework in my mind of exactly how it works. If you're using a bidet, aren't you a little damp afterwards? Like, don't you then need toilet paper just to create a dry situation?
I think I may be wrong on this. First, I may be wrong. And by the way, all I'm thinking is saying like you don't know how to use a bidet. How not comfortable is it for you then to look for YouTube videos?
That is a tough search. That's a tough search.
You go down a real rabbit hole. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, most modern bidets, next to the bidet, there'll be a towelette that you would use that you could then wash.
But isn't that just toilet paper?
No, it's a towel because you're clean at that point. It's clean, so you're just dry.
Sorry. So now I've got a separate butt towel that's just going to sit on a rack in the open air in my bathroom.
Well, I think it's more like a gym where it's a single use. Like you get a little hand towel, like you're in the bathroom at the Harvard Club. You get a hand towel, you use that once, and then you put that in like a bin, and then you wash your towels like at the end of the week. So you have a whole stock of I think that's how it works. I mean, you have to have a towel, but you're right.
There is no end to the ridiculous quantity of bathroom product that you are okay purchasing.
Well, because I agree. It seems like you're really putting yourself in a pickle is if you use the bidet, you've got a lot of moisture, and then you just kind of Because then
situation.
imagine you're like on a job interview and you walk out and you turn around and there's just a wet backside. You have some explaining to do at that point.
Our last sports topic of the episode, and thank you to those of you that have done yeoman's work and stuck with us through the first 40 minutes of this program. Georgia Southern football player Gavin Adcock was suspended indefinitely this week after he was caught on video chugging a beer thrown to him by a fan as he rode on top of a school bus that was on the way to taking him and his teammates to their football game. Georgia Southern, of course, 1-3 on the year. I think you're getting a good idea why. And also after this incident, their head coach, Chad Lunsford, got fired. So the AD had a big week, suspending a player for catching and chugging a beer while riding on top of a school bus that was taking his team to a game. And then, of course, had to fire the head coach. Were they related? I don't know. But who thought that this was a good idea?
Well, I think the question that I am asking, which I'm sure all of America is asking, which I'm sure everyone on the Georgia Southern football team has been asking for quite some time. Why the hell are they taking a school bus?
Yeah, so that was everybody's first question.
Football
I looked that up, and apparently that's some sort of tradition where they always do that. Like it's not like I think it's
like a loser.
I think it's like a home game thing where they take the school bus like from the hotel parking lot to the game. It's some sort of tradition thing.
Nothing intimidates the competition like showing up in a school bus.
Well, I think it's something to do with like mentality, like remember, I don't know, kids game or something like that. Like remember where you came from. But I don't get it either. Like coach buses are much better, or just walk.
You're there. Like you're right there. You're right there. Why would you get on a school bus?
But that aside, whatever you're,
and look what happens.
And look what happens.
See, if they didn't take the bus, he would never have been surfing on the top of it, chugging a beer. Now, this is before the game.
I don't know. I don't know if it was before or after. I don't think it matters. If it was before, I mean, that's a bridge quite far. It might have been on the way back from a game. I don't know. I don't know the particulars. I just know there's a video of a Georgia Southern football player riding the top of a bus. Somebody hurls a beer at him, and he decides, well, now's the right time to drink this.
What was he supposed to do with the beer?
Throw it back.
Can I ask a stupid question?
That's
Why
what we're
was he
here
on
for.
top? Why was he on top of the bus? Because that seems like it violates a lot of safety violations. Was this a COVID protocol?
It's a fine question. Why was he on top of the bus? And how did he get up there? Did he use the emergency exit hatch that every kid looked up and was like, I don't know how to open that thing?
Was he wearing a mask?
I don't believe so. No, but he was socially distant from everyone. So I think that's okay.
To be quite honest, I believe masks are actually banned at Georgia Southern University, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, there's some places where they can ban. You can't wear.
Correct. Yeah, there's the restaurant in your state, in Texas. You heard about the restaurant in Texas that bans masks?
They ban masks, and then they kicked out a family who has a young kid who has all sorts of potential risks.
Yep.
And so, out of courtesy for saving their kid's life, they decided to wear masks.
Yeah, and then the owner goes on television, and his Chiron only had his first name on it, which of course leads me to, this is always a great truism. If when you're talking to the news about a decision that you've made and you're not comfortable to give them your last name, you've made the wrong decision.
I'm guessing that it was the first name actually two names, like Billy Bob?
No, sadly, just Tom. Just Tom. Could have been Tom.
It should have been Tommy Jack or something like that. Because when we first moved to Texas, we all thought about getting a second name. Because you do need, my dad would have had the best chance because he was Bob, and Bob is you could be Bobby Ray, Bobby, right?
Sure.
So Keith is a tough one. It doesn't lend itself to a second name.
It's a tough one. Yeah. It's not a good old boy name.
Well, I would have done from the R&B singer, I would have gone Keith Sweat, like Keith Sweat Strudler.
Yeah, but that's a last name. You just took the last name of a person named Keith.
That would have been my
That's
first
all that
name.
is. That would be no different than if you were like, I'm going to be Keith Clinton. Like, it's just a last name.
I would have made that my full first name. Like, I'm Keith Sweat Strudler.
Yeah, I understand what you would have done, but that doesn't make it so. It's like deciding to have corn nuts instead of chips. Like, I get that you're going to do it, but it doesn't make it the same.
They kicked it. So now this guy is off the team.
Now suspended indefinitely.
Indefinitely. It's unlikely. I mean, the team is 1-3. They may have done him a huge favor. because, and Georgia Southern, if I'm not mistaken, one of those teams that moved up from 1AA to 1A,
Yes, correct.
And kind of sits as something of a bottom feeder, right? Has not turned that into considerable success, shall we say? Maybe a team that and was highly successful, I believe, at the 1AA level.
I believe all that is correct. Yes.
So they're a program where when you go there, you're going to be taking a beating. You're probably going to get a game or two against an SEC foe that's going to beat you into next week. I mean, maybe he needed a cocktail.
You're saying he earned the beer. He's had a rough go of it. We all need to unwind and relax every once in a while.
I'm saying after you get shellacked by 60 by Ole Miss, maybe they're doing you a huge favor, giving you a little something to take the edge off.
You know, it goes great with an ice cold crispy boy on top of a school bus. Some corn nuts.
I don't understand why you have aversion to corn nuts. You don't think they're a delicious snack? Here's the thing. No. Corn nuts, they're in a very
why not just have peanuts? Like, why not get a honey roasted peanut? That's an elite snack.
And it's not. What do you think about Pringles?
Indifferent. I'd rather have a potato chip.
You really would?
Yeah. Baked chip. The baked chips are never as good as the unhealthy chips.
No, they're not. I don't think they're baked. They're very unhealthy.
I think the whole point of the Pringle is they're baked.
No, the point of the Pringle is they're stackable.
They're giving two things at once.
I think Pringles are and the other thing about Pringles, now that apparently we've given up on the sports show, I think they should let the kid play. I think they should let the kid play. Is he 12? Was he 21?
I believe so. I think it was illegal beer.
I will say, here's my last story. When we were traveling back from a cross-country meet, we used to always stop on the way home. This was in college, and we were going back to upstate New York after a meet. And one of the guys, who I believe was 21, and we had a new coach. One of the guys, we go stop at a restaurant, and he literally, we're all dressed, team wearing, jackets and ties, whatever, on our school bus going back to, not a school bus, but the school's bus back to Cornell. Literally orders a beer during dinner, and you could see Coach kind of looking from a side. And I just remember, he let it go, walking him back, when we were walking back after dinner, and everyone was a different restaurant, it's one of these places, literally pulling, he's like, David, I need to talk to you, having to have the conversation, this is a school function. You may not order a beer during dinner after the meet. And it was almost like it was a revelation, oh, that's good to know, Coach. Good to know.
I was similarly with a team at a dinner, and someone ordered a surf and turf as their entree, which was also frowned upon. And then we had a discussion about how you could not order anything on the menu that had MP listed in the price section.
All right.
We learned a lot of important life lessons in this program today, and both Keith and I would like to thank you all for coming along and enjoying it, whether it's on For the Fans, FGFnext.com, aboard your motorcycle, or wherever you get your podcasts. Keith will definitely be back next week. He has nothing better to do. I will either remain me or become Jay Friedman. Got to tune in to find out. See you, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Sportish. See you next time.